So, uh, I want to start today by just talking directly to you. Like, if you're listening to this on your commute, or maybe, I don't know, you've got your headphones in while you're doing the dishes, I want you to just mentally freeze for a second.
Yeah, just pause whatever you're doing.
Exactly. Because we are talking to you, the intermediate English learner.
Yeah.
You know, you've put in the hours, you know the vocabulary.
You definitely understand the complex grammar rules by now.
Yeah, and you can probably read a really dense article in English
Yeah.
and comprehend, like, almost all of it. But then there you are at work. You're staring at the send button on an English email to a client,
Oh, the send button.
right? Or you're looking at the unmute button on a video call with your international team. And suddenly, I mean, that tiny button feels like a mountain.
It really does. It feels completely insurmountable.
It's just a tiny piece of plastic on your keyboard, or, a literal pixel on a glass screen. But it holds this massive, terrifying emotional weight. I just want to validate that physical feeling right out of the gate.
It's so important to acknowledge that.
It is. Because that hesitation, that sudden spike in your heart rate, the slight sweating of your palms, it is entirely real. You aren't just imagining it.
No, it is incredibly real, and it's actually physiologically measurable. What's fascinating here is that if we, hook you up to a heart monitor in that exact moment.
Right before you click unmute.
Exactly, right before you unmute, your body is mimicking the exact biological response of someone facing a physical threat.
Oh, a literal physical threat.
Yeah. The problem is that the feeling you're describing, that intense paralysis, isn't actually a lack of language skills. It's a crisis of confidence.
Okay, a crisis of confidence.
Right. And confidence, especially when we talk about navigating a second language in a high-stakes environment, is just widely misunderstood.
How so?
Well, we tend to view confidence as this magical mood, like this mystical weather pattern that just arrives when you are finally ready.
Oh, yeah. Like one day you'll just wake up, the clouds will part, and you will simply be a confident English speaker.
Exactly. But the reality is much more grounded, and frankly, it requires much more active participation.
Right, because waiting for confidence to arrive before you speak it's like standing beside a cold swimming pool, shivering in your towel, and just staring at the water, waiting for it to magically boil.
That's a great analogy.
It's not going to happen. The water is cold. It will remain cold.
Right.
Real confidence isn't the absence of the cold. It's the willingness to dip one foot in, feel the absolute freezing shock of it, and say, well, okay, this is uncomfortable, but my body can regulate this. I can handle this.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. If we connect this to the bigger picture of today's deep dive into our source material, the problem isn't that you are weak.
Right.
Or that your English isn't good enough. The core problem we are unpacking today is that avoiding these difficult conversations actively kills your confidence.
Every time you step away from the pool, the water just looks colder the next time.
Exactly. And worse, when you do force yourself to engage, your brain doesn't reward you. Instead, it acts as a detective, a judge, and a punisher for every single awkward sentence or minor grammatical mistake you make during that interaction.
I love that we're diving into the mechanics of this, because it's almost like rumination is an autoimmune response of the brain.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, like the brain is trying to protect us from future social embarrassment,
Yeah.
but it ends up attacking its own healthy tissue,
Mm-hmm.
our self-esteem and our willingness to try again.
Yes, that's exactly what happens mechanically.
So today, our mission is to completely dismantle that internal courtroom. We are going to explore why confidence isn't a mood you wait for, but a practice you engage in.
And we'll be breaking down a specific framework from our sources called the 5E confidence method.
The 5E confidence method.
Yes, we are going to map out how to overcome that daily fear, stop the cycle of self-sabotage, and build lasting self-trust in real-life English interactions.
This is so needed, because we are moving away from empty motivational quotes.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Telling someone to just believe in themselves when their heart is pounding at 120 beats per minute is completely useless.
Literally does nothing.
Right. The mindset shift we are advocating for today defines confidence simply as action despite fear.
Action despite fear.
Yes. It's acknowledging the fear, feeling the cortisol in your system, and taking the step anyway, using very specific tactical steps.
Okay, action despite fear. So before we can even get to the tactical steps of fixing our confidence, I feel like we have to look at the foundation first.
We do.
We have to understand how we are secretly, quietly undermining our own progress in our daily English practice. We need to talk about the trap of self-sabotage and the illusion of confidence.
This is a huge trap.
Because I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you do too. People walk around wearing this heavy, permanent label. They will look you right in the eye and say, well, I am not a confident person.
Yeah, I hear that constantly.
They take one single weak area, like maybe speaking English in a fast-paced financial meeting, and they extrapolate that to define their entire human identity.
Which raises a fundamental question about how we construct our self-image, right? That label, I am not a confident person, is fundamentally flawed.
Why is that?
Because confidence is what behavioral psychologists call domain-specific.
Okay, let me push back on that a little bit. Domain-specific makes sense in theory, but what if someone truly feels they lack confidence in every professional setting?
I see what you mean.
Like, what if they feel nervous writing emails? They feel nervous speaking in cross-departmental meetings, and they even feel nervous making small talk at the water cooler. Doesn't that mean the label is accurate? Don't they just lack confidence overall?
It absolutely feels that way to them, but it's a cognitive illusion created by overgeneralization.
A cognitive illusion. Okay, unpack that for us.
Think about it mechanically. That exact same person who is terrified and physically shaking in a board meeting might be incredibly confident when cooking a complex meal for 20 people.
Oh, right.
Or when navigating heavy, chaotic traffic in a major city, or comforting a grieving friend. They possess immense confidence in those domains because they have spent years gathering proof of their capability there.
That makes total sense.
Feeling unconfident in a professional English setting doesn't mean your personality is fundamentally broken or that you are an unconfident human being at your core.
So what does it mean?
It simply means you are undertrained in that specific arena. You haven't gathered enough empirical evidence of your own capability yet.
Undertrained. Wow. That reframing is massive. It takes so much of the moral weight off the listener's shoulders.
It really does.
It's not a personality defect you were born with. It's just a lack of training hours in this specific high-stakes linguistic arena.
Exactly.
But here's the paradox, and here's where it gets really interesting. Because we feel undertrained, our brains panic, and we start doing things that actively prevent us from getting that training.
Yes, the avoidance kicks in.
We start engaging in self-sabotage.
And we need to be very clear about how self-sabotage operates. Self-sabotage isn't usually some dramatic, destructive event where you yell at your boss and quit your job.
Right, it's not a movie scene.
No, it is a quiet, subtle habit of damaging your own progress without realizing you are doing it. It's a protective mechanism that completely backfires.
So in the context of our daily lives, especially for an intermediate English learner, it shows up in very specific, highly rationalized ways.
Let's give some examples.
Yeah, let's paint a picture of what this actually looks like on a typical Tuesday. Self-sabotage looks like seeing an internal job posting for a promotion. You know you have the technical skills, you know the product inside and out, but the role requires leading weekly calls in English.
So you just close the browser tab.
Exactly. You close the tab and don't apply. Or it looks like sitting in a meeting, having a genuinely brilliant solution to the logistical problem the team is agonizing over, but staying totally silent.
Because you're worried about how you sound.
Yeah, you convince yourself your accent is too heavy, or you'll use the wrong preposition, and people will judge your intelligence based on your grammar.
What's insidious about those situations is how the brain justifies them. Self-sabotage almost always disguises itself as logic.
It really does. It sounds so reasonable at the time.
It sounds intensely reasonable in your own head. You tell yourself, oh, I'm just waiting for the right time, or I need to study grammar for 3 more months before I can give this presentation.
Or I'm just being cautious and gathering more information.
Right. But if we look at the underlying mechanics, that isn't preparation. That is avoidance. As the sources beautifully articulate, sometimes your logic is just fear wearing a really nice jacket.
Fear wearing a nice jacket. I am obsessed with that imagery. We dress our fear up in a tailored suit of responsibility or perfectionism or strategic planning.
But underneath the suit, it's just pure avoidance.
We are refusing to get into the cold pool. And there's another side to this behavioral coin too, right?
Yes, there is.
If avoidance and shrinking away is one trap, the other trap, which I think is even less understood, is overcompensating.
Exactly. Overcompensating is the exact opposite behavioral reaction to the exact same underlying fear.
Instead of shrinking away, you do the opposite.
Right. Instead of going silent and avoiding the situation entirely, the brain decides the best defense is a massive offense.
Huh?
You try to cover up your linguistic insecurity by doing too much.
I've seen this play out in real time, and honestly, if I look closely at my own past, I've absolutely done it.
Most of us have.
It's when someone acts extra loud or extra certain, or they talk incredibly fast to hide the fact that they are terrified inside.
Yes.
They steamroll the conversation, they don't let anyone else speak, and they dominate the room, not out of genuine authority, but out of absolute panic. It's like a squid shooting ink into the water to hide its escape.
The squid analogy is incredibly apt. In a professional context, it is crucial for our listeners to realize that loud does not always equate to confident. We often confuse the two.
We really do.
Sometimes loud is just noisy. It's a smokescreen. Sometimes the most profound, deeply rooted confidence is incredibly quiet.
Quiet confidence.
Yes. Quiet confidence is having the internal self-possession to stand there in the middle of a meeting, take a slow breath, leave a few seconds of dead air in the room, and admit, hey, I am still learning the nuances of this proposal, but I am here and I am not running away.
That is so powerful.
You do not need a noisy, aggressive performance to be effective in your second language.
So, if you're listening to this, I want you to think about your English journey this past week. Just run a mental scan over the last 7 days at work or in your social life.
Really reflect on it.
Did you avoid a conversation, maybe by sending a Slack message instead of making a quick phone call, and disguise it to yourself as being more efficient?
Oh, the efficiency excuse is a classic.
Right. Or did you overcompensate? Did you find yourself speaking way too fast, nervously laughing through a point, or dominating a discussion because you were afraid of the silence?
What did your fear look like this week?
Was it wearing a nice jacket, or was it shouting to cover up its tracks?
Recognizing those external behaviors, the quiet avoidance or the noisy overcompensation is the critical first step. It brings the unconscious habit into the light.
That those are just external symptoms.
Exactly. Avoidance and overcompensation are just the external symptoms. To really master the confidence method we are exploring today, we have to look under the hood.
We have to look at what happens internally after an awkward moment has already occurred, because the awkward moments are inevitable. You will make mistakes.
You absolutely will. We must tackle the mind's negative loops.
Yes, we are entering the territory of the inner enemy. Let's say you do speak up. You push past the avoidance. You don't overcompensate. You just try.
You get in the pool.
You get in the pool, but you stumble over a word, you use the past tense instead of the present perfect, or you completely mispronounce a client's name. The meeting ends.
And then what?
What happens next is where the real battle for your fluency and confidence is fought. And this brings us to a vital distinction: the difference between normal self-doubt and toxic rumination.
It's a crucial distinction, and what's fascinating is how often we collapse the two concepts together, thinking they are the exact same thing.
But they're not.
Not at all. Self-doubt is entirely normal. Biologically speaking, it is a protective mechanism. It's the brain's way of checking its environment to ensure social cohesion, which, from an evolutionary standpoint, meant survival.
Makes sense.
Every high performer, every CEO, every native speaker you admire experiences self-doubt. The problem is not that initial flash of doubt. The problem is what cognitive psychologists call rumination.
I think we need to define rumination very clearly, because it feels like a buzzword, but the mechanics of it are actually devastating.
Let's define it.
Our sources use this incredibly vivid metaphor. They describe rumination as your mind opening a midnight cinema of regret.
A midnight cinema of regret.
Yes. It's 2:00 a.m., you are exhausted, you want to sleep, and suddenly your brain decides to project the absolute worst, most awkward scenes of your day onto the back of your eyelids in high definition.
And you can't look away.
And there's no popcorn, the seats are uncomfortable, and there's definitely no happy ending. You just watch yourself fail over and over again.
That metaphor perfectly captures the cyclical nature of it. To understand how to break it, we need to compare it to reflection.
Okay, so reflection versus rumination.
Right. Reflection is a healthy, forward-moving cognitive process. Reflection looks at the awkward meeting and asks a constructive question, like, okay, I stumbled over the financial figures. What can I learn from that interaction?
So it's looking for a lesson.
Exactly. Maybe I need to write the numbers down phonetically in my notes next time. Great. Moving on. It's solution-oriented.
And rumination.
Rumination, on the other hand, is completely stagnant. It just replays the embarrassing moment on an endless loop without offering any solutions whatsoever. It traps your nervous system in the past, making you re-experience the stress of the event as if it is happening right now.
So mechanically, how do we stop it? Because when you are trapped in that midnight cinema, it feels like the projector is locked and you can't find the exit door. The thoughts feel so loud and so true.
The key to stopping a rumination loop is to attack the cognitive bias that fuels it. And the main fuel for rumination is something called the spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect.
Yes, you have to realize a harsh but ultimately incredibly comforting truth. You are making yourself the main character in everyone else's mind. You assume that your awkward sentence was the front page headline of their day.
Oh, right. We really do this. You have this inflated sense that your colleagues went home to their families, sat down at the dinner table, and said, "Honey, kids, gather around. You will not believe the grammatical error Maria made in the 3:00 p.m. sync today."
Right. Let me tell you all about her incorrect use of the subjunctive.
Exactly. We literally think people are obsessing over our mistakes.
We do, but the reality of human nature is that everyone is the main character of their own story. Your awkward moment is just faint background noise to them if they register it at all.
They're too busy with their own stuff.
Right. They are too busy worrying about their own midnight cinema of regret. Maybe they are agonizing over a joke they made that didn't land, or an email they sent with a typo. Realizing that you are not the center of everyone's critical attention is the fastest way to pull the plug on the rumination projector.
I want to share a vivid story from the source material that illustrates exactly how to stop this negative loop in the moment before it even gets to the 2:00 a.m. cinema stage.
This is a great example.
Let's call this scenario the faltering voice. Imagine you are an English learner speaking in a small group. It's not a massive keynote speech, just a few colleagues in a huddle. You gather your courage, you open your mouth to make your point, but suddenly your throat feels tight.
We've all been there.
Your breath catches, and your fourth sentence comes out incredibly weak. Your voice literally falters. It loses its strength, the pitch goes up, and a very obvious shakiness creeps into your tone.
Now, let's pause the tape right there and look at the internal mechanics. In the past, for an untrained speaker, that exact millisecond where the voice shakes is the trigger.
It sets off the alarm.
Yes. That is the moment the internal narrative takes over the steering wheel and screams, "Oh no, I'm losing it. They can hear my voice shaking. I sound completely incompetent. I am a failure."
The rumination loop starts instantly.
Instantly, while they are still standing in the middle of the meeting, the cortisol spikes, the brain fog rolls in, and they usually rush to finish speaking just to escape the spotlight.
But the sources outline a very different internal shift for someone practicing the confidence method. In this story, instead of surrendering to that internal panic alarm, the person realizes their voice is shaking, and they do one simple thing.
They take a breath.
They take one deliberate, slow breath. And in that breath, they reframe the moment. They realize that one nervous, faltering sentence does not mean they're a weak person or a bad English speaker.
It's just a moment.
It simply means their confidence is currently being trained.
Mhm.
It's a moment of active exercise, not a moment of permanent failure.
That reframing is a profound act of cognitive control. If we look at the psychological landscape of that moment, what they're doing is taking nervousness, which was trying to drive the car, and firmly putting it in the backseat.
Just shoving it in the back.
Right. Now, let's be realistic. You can't just kick nervousness out of a moving car on the highway. It is still in the vehicle with you.
Unfortunately.
And it might be complaining loudly from the back seat, kicking your chair, telling you you're going to crash, but it doesn't get to steer. You remain in the driver's seat. You acknowledge the feeling without letting it dictate your behavior.
Nervousness is the annoying passenger, but your logical, capable self has their hands on the wheel. Okay, so we've mapped the terrain. We recognize the external behavioral traps, the avoidance, and the overcompensating.
Yes, the external symptoms.
And we recognize the internal enemy, the midnight cinema of rumination, and the spotlight effect. So how do we actively, systematically build the self-trust required to stay in the driver's seat?
This is where we introduce the core architecture of today's deep dive.
The 5E method.
The 5E method. It is designed to move you out of the realm of abstract theory and into daily, verifiable practice. It is structured sequentially. And step one, the initiation of this whole process, is expose.
Expose. I have to admit, linguistically, that sounds a little intimidating.
It does.
When I hear expose, I think of being exposed to a harsh winter storm without a coat, or being exposed on a stage with nowhere to hide. It sounds painful.
That's a common reaction to the word, but in clinical psychology, particularly in exposure therapy, it means the exact opposite of throwing yourself into a massive storm.
So what does it mean?
Expose simply means gently, intentionally entering the situations you usually avoid, but, and this is the critical caveat, doing it in small, meticulously managed doses.
Small doses.
Yes. We are not asking you to tackle the entire mountain today. We are asking you to step onto the very first stone on the path. It is the process of microdosing fear so your nervous system can build a tolerance to it.
So if I'm listening to this, and my ultimate goal is to lead a flawless hour-long technical presentation in English, exposing myself does not mean volunteering to give that keynote to the executive board tomorrow morning.
Absolutely not.
That's a recipe for a flooded nervous system and massive trauma, not confidence.
Precisely. That would be jumping into the deep end of the freezing pool with weights tied to your ankles.
Yikes.
Exposing yourself means looking for the smallest possible threshold of discomfort. It means making one brief, delayed phone call to a vendor that you've been putting off because you prefer email.
Or asking one question.
Yes. It means committing to asking one single clarifying question in tomorrow's team meeting. Just one. It means writing one honest, direct sentence in an email without running it through translation software 5 times to scrub away your personal voice.
It is about locating the exact edge of your current comfort zone and just nudging your toe 1 inch over the line.
Just 1 inch.
So here is a scenario for you listening. Think about your schedule for tomorrow. Look at your calendar in your mind. What is one small, incredibly low-stakes English interaction you can expose yourself to?
What is your stone?
Is it saying a full sentence of greeting to the barista at the coffee shop instead of just pointing at the menu? Is it leaving a 30-second voice note for a language exchange partner instead of typing a text?
Or turning your camera on for the first 5 minutes of a Zoom call?
Exactly. Pick your small stone.
And this leads us to the crucial mechanism of the method. Once you take that small step, you cannot just move on with your day. You must immediately move to step 2 of the 5E method, which is evidence.
Evidence. Because, as we discussed earlier, true confidence isn't built on imagination or wishful thinking, right? It's built on a documented record of actions.
That is the foundational biological truth of how self-trust is formed. Your brain is a strict empiricist. It needs hard proof.
It wants the data.
It demands the data. You can stand in front of your bathroom mirror every morning and recite positive affirmations all day long, like, I am a fluent, confident English speaker. But if your daily actions consist of hiding, avoiding, and shrinking, your brain simply will not believe the affirmation.
The actions have to match the words.
Exactly. You must purposefully, aggressively collect proof of your own bravery. You have to gather a physical and mental evidence log that proves to your nervous system that you can survive linguistic discomfort.
And this is where the immense power of follow-through comes in. It's about keeping these small, microscopic daily promises to yourself.
The psychological impact of follow-through cannot be overstated. Every single time you set an intention, for example, I'm going to ask one question in the 10:00 a.m. huddle today, and you actually execute that action, you are casting a quiet, undeniable vote for the person you're becoming.
You are rewiring your brain.
You are literally rewiring your brain's self-schema. You are teaching your brain, I am a reliable person. When I say I will do something hard, I do it.
Let's give some concrete professional examples of what gathering this evidence looks like. Let's say you tell yourself, I am going to send that difficult email to the unhappy client today by 5:00 p.m.
Okay, classic scenario.
It's an email you've been dreading for 2 days because it requires a lot of nuance, tact, and complex vocabulary English. Your brain is screaming at you to wait until tomorrow.
Just put it off.
Right. But if you sit down, write it, and actually hit send at 4:59 p.m., you haven't just sent an email. You have manufactured deep conviction.
That word, conviction, is essential here. Conviction is an inner certainty. It's the deep-seated belief that you can handle complex situations, and it is built entirely on a solid foundation of accumulated evidence.
It's the logbook.
Yes. When you build a track record of keeping small promises to yourself, sending the email, asking the question, making the call, your self-trust becomes incredibly robust.
So what happens the next time you face a hard task?
The next time you face a terrifying task, your brain doesn't just panic. It quickly references the internal evidence log and says, well, look at this. We survived the scary client email yesterday and the voice note on Tuesday. We didn't die, so we can probably survive this presentation today.
So listener, if you're on your way home or sitting at your desk, here is a question to anchor this concept. What is one small, undeniable promise regarding your English practice you can make and keep before you go to sleep tonight? Will you read one industry article in English without translating it? Will you write 3 sentences in a journal about your day? Make the promise incredibly small, almost ridiculously easy, but make the follow-through absolute. That is how you build the evidence log.
Now, let's look at the progression. We've talked about the anticipation and action phase. We've exposed ourselves to the moment, and we are gathering evidence.
Okay, what's next?
But we also need to refine the actual execution. We need to look at how we present ourselves in those challenging moments, specifically regarding our words and our physiology. This brings us to the execution phase, starting with step 3 of the 5E method, which is edit.
Edit. This step is fascinating to me because it's all about the pragmatics of our language. It's about how we unconsciously sabotage our own authority with the actual vocabulary we choose. I am wildly guilty of this.
And many people are.
The sources refer to this as using shrinking language.
Shrinking language is a widespread sociolinguistic phenomenon, particularly among non-native speakers who feel they lack authority in the room. It is the verbal equivalent of trying to make yourself physically smaller so nobody notices you or perceives you as a threat.
Trying to blend into the wallpaper.
Yes. It is rooted in an ancient biological drive for appeasement. It's how we preemptively apologize for our very existence in a conversation.
Yes. It's so recognizable once you start listening for it.
Right?
It's starting a sentence with, sorry to bother you, this may be a stupid question, but, or, I don't know if this makes any sense at all, my English isn't great, I'm just thinking out loud.
It undermines everything you say next.
Let's dissect that. When you use those specific phrases, before you have even presented your idea, you are actively instructing the listener to discount your intelligence. You are basically handing them a sign that says, please ignore me, I have no confidence in the data I am about to share.
Exactly. The brain of the listener subconsciously registers that lack of authority. So the edit step requires a conscious, constructive language shift. You need to become an editor of your own real-time speech.
Editing in real time.
You must edit out the shrinking phrases and replace them with clean, grounded language. It's about stripping away the defensive fluff. Instead of saying, sorry, this may be a stupid question, you pause and you simply say, I have a question.
I have a question. It's so clean. There is no emotional baggage attached to it. It's completely neutral.
It is neutral, and neutrality is powerful. And instead of saying, maybe this makes no sense and probably explaining it wrong, you edit that in real time to, let me explain what I mean.
That sounds so much better.
Now, we need to be clear about the tone here. This isn't about suddenly adopting an aggressive, arrogant, or demanding persona. It is simply clean, professional, declarative language that commands baseline respect.
I love that distinction. Clean and grounded, not aggressive.
Right.
But editing our vocabulary is only half the battle of the execution phase. You can say the cleanest sentence in the world, but if your body is screaming panic, nobody will believe you.
That is very true.
And that is why we must move to step 4. Embody.
Embodying physical composure. This is where we bring neuroscience into the conversation. We have this outdated notion that our brain acts as the master commander, telling our body how to feel.
Right. Mind over matter.
But the communication superhighway between the brain and the body goes both ways. The vagus nerve, for instance, sends vast amounts of information from the body up to the brain.
So the body tells the brain how to feel.
Yes. If you hunch your shoulders to protect your chest, if you breathe shallowly into your upper chest, and if you cast your eyes at the floor, your physical posture sends an urgent biological signal up to your brain saying, we are under attack. Initiate the stress response. Dump cortisol into the system.
And when cortisol floods the system, your cognitive load maxes out, and suddenly you can't remember the English word for budget. You literally lose access to your vocabulary.
It just disappears.
But the sources use this beautiful phrase for the antidote. They say confidence is the whole room inside you. It means taking up space, not just physically sprawling out, but energetically and emotionally occupying your rightful space in the room.
To embody confidence, you use specific physiological techniques to hijack that stress response before you even open your mouth to speak.
Like what?
You consciously adjust your posture to open your chest. You take a deep, slow, diaphragmatic breath, which signals safety to the parasympathetic nervous system. You consciously, deliberately slow down your speaking pace by 10%. And physically, you put both feet flat on the ground to give your body a literal sense of being grounded and stable.
Let me jump in here with a crucial caveat, because some listeners might hear this and think, okay, so I just need to fake it.
Oh, this is not faking it.
This is absolutely not faking it till you make it. We aren't asking you to put on a mask, act like a robot, or pretend you're the CEO with 20 years of experience when you're a junior analyst. Embodying confidence is simply refusing to abandon yourself in a room.
That is a critical philosophical distinction. Faking it is about pretending to be someone else. Refusing to abandon yourself means staying deeply present with your own discomfort, anchoring yourself in your body, and refusing the urge to physically flee from the situation through defensive body language. It's saying, I'm scared, but I'm staying right here.
Let's bring this abstract concept entirely to life. Let's do a conversational role play right now to see the execution phase in action. Let's set the scene.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine an intermediate English speaker needs to disagree with a colleague in a fast-paced, high-pressure project meeting. I'll play the fast-talking, slightly overbearing native speaker colleague who is trying to rush a decision. You play the English learner who's going to actively apply the edit and embody steps. Ready?
I'm ready. Let's see how it works mechanically.
All right, here we go. Look, I think we just need to push the software update live by Friday. It's fine. We've tested it enough. The client is waiting. Let's just get it out the door. The timeline is set, right?
I see your point about the timeline, but let me explain what I mean regarding the testing phase. We still have 3 unresolved critical bugs.
Okay, let's hit pause on the tape and break that down line by line. That was brilliant. Let's look at the mechanics of what you just did to completely shift the power dynamic of that interaction. First, the most obvious thing, you paused. You didn't instantly rush to fill the silence I created.
That pause is the most crucial element of the entire exchange. That was the embody step in action.
It really showed.
When someone comes at you with fast, frantic, aggressive energy, the biological instinct is to speed up your own speech to match their pace and appease them. By pausing and taking that slow breath, I physically regulated my own nervous system.
You didn't get swept up.
I prevented myself from being swept into your frantic cadence. It kept me physically and neurologically grounded.
It was so effective. It forced the room to slow down to your speed. And then we saw the edit step applied perfectly. You didn't start with, oh, sorry, I might be wrong about this, but maybe we shouldn't launch.
No apologies.
You completely stripped the apology out. You used clean, neutral language. I see your point, but let me explain what I mean. You acknowledged my position, but you didn't shrink your own.
By combining physical composure, the breath, and the pace with clean, edited language, I claimed my intellectual space in that conversation before I even fully presented the data about the bugs. The structure of my delivery communicated authority, even if my English wasn't flawlessly native.
That is something every single listener can practice tomorrow. So if you're picturing your next meeting, whether it's a massive Zoom call with 50 people or a one-on-one in person, how can you physically claim your space before you even unmute your microphone or open your mouth?
Find your physical anchor.
What is your physical anchor going to be? Will you deliberately plant your feet flat on the floor? Will you push your shoulders back 1 inch? Will you take 1 4-second inhale? Think about constructing your physical presence.
So if we trace our journey, we have exposed ourselves to the hard moment. We are gathering evidence of our capability. We've edited our shrinking language, and we've embodied our physical presence during the interaction. The meeting went okay.
But then it ends.
But what happens when the Zoom call ends? What happens when you close your laptop, the adrenaline fades, and your brain immediately tries to drag you right back into the midnight cinema of regret because you remembered you used the wrong preposition in your final sentence?
That is the ultimate danger zone.
Yeah.
That is where all the good work can be undone. And that is exactly why we need the final piece of the architecture, step 5 of the 5E method exit. We have to have a tactical plan for escaping the rumination loop.
Exiting is the final essential mechanism of the confidence cycle. It is the tactical cognitive maneuver of recognizing the rumination cycle and leaving it.
How do we do that?
When your brain starts playing back the tape of the meeting and asks that incredibly toxic, unanswerable question, why am I like this? Why did I stumble over that basic word? Why can't I just speak normally? You have to recognize that as a trap and immediately interrupt it.
You can't just tell your brain to be quiet. You have to redirect its energy. You replace that toxic question with a highly pragmatic, forward-looking question. You ask your brain, what is the lesson here? And what is the next specific action?
Look at the psychological difference between those two approaches. One question, why am I like this, is an attack on your core identity. It assumes you are permanently, fundamentally flawed and incapable. It leads to despair.
And the other?
The other question, what is the lesson, guides your behavior. It strips the emotion away. It assumes you are simply a learner who is capable of gathering data and experiencing growth.
And there's a specific, almost magical tool that helps facilitate this cognitive transition. It's a tiny 3-letter word that changes the entire architecture of a sentence. Yet.
The profound neurological impact of the word yet has been studied extensively by psychologists focused on growth mindsets.
How does it work?
When you make a grammatical mistake in a meeting, get flustered, and your internal voice says, I am not confident you are delivering a verdict. A verdict is final. A verdict bangs a gavel and closes the door on any possibility of future improvement. Your brain accepts the verdict and stops trying.
But when you simply append yet to the end of that exact same sentence, the entire landscape changes. I am not confident yet. Suddenly, it is no longer a life sentence. It's just a temporary status update.
It means you are currently in a state of training.
It keeps the door of possibility and neuroplasticity wide open.
It forces a shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Let's demonstrate exactly how powerful and necessary this exit strategy is in practice, especially when things are going wrong in real time. Let's do a second, much higher stakes role play.
Okay, let's do the ultimate high-stress scenario. A job interview in English. For an intermediate learner, this is the crucible. The pressure is astronomical, your heart is pounding, and you want this job.
The pressure is real.
Let's say you are the interviewee. You are an English learner feeling immense nerve-wracking pressure. During this role play, you are going to make a noticeable grammatical mistake. You are going to stumble, and you are going to falter. I will play the very formal, slightly intimidating native speaker interviewer. Let's see how you utilize the exit strategy and the concept of yet in real time to save the interview. Ready?
I'm ready. Let's induce some stress.
So, looking at your resume, you have an impressive background. But can you walk me through your exact process for handling a major project failure or critical breakdown?
Yes, thank you. Well, when a project is when a failing.
Oh, no.
Okay, panic is flooding my system. I just completely messed up the verb tense. The interviewer is staring at me. My brain is screaming that I am blowing the interview and I look incompetent. Stop. Exit the loop. What is the next action? Take a breath. Regain composure. You aren't perfect yet, but you can recover. Excuse me, let me rephrase that for clarity. When a project experiences a critical setback, my first step is...
Wow. Okay, breaking that down again because that was a masterclass in emotional regulation. That internal monologue we heard out loud was the MVP of that interaction.
Yeah, it really was.
You physically felt the falter. You felt the rumination trying to start during the middle of the interview sentence. But you recognized the trap and you hit the exit button.
Yes, the critical skill was noticing the negative loop. The voice saying I'm blowing it and stopping it before it hijacked my entire nervous system. I took that deliberate breath to regain my physical composure, embodying confidence.
And then you edited.
And then I used clean, edited language to execute my recovery. Let me rephrase that for clarity. I didn't fall apart and apologize profusely for my grammar. I didn't say, sorry, my English is terrible today. I just professionally reset the sentence.
And underneath all of those mechanics, the underlying philosophy of yet was acting as your safety net. You might not be a flawless, perfectly polished interviewee yet, but you possess the skill to learn how to recover gracefully. Recovery is often more impressive to an interviewer than perfection anyway.
It shows resilience.
So, listener, here's your question for step 5. Where in your professional or personal life do you desperately need to add the word yet? I want you to literally say it aloud wherever you are right now. I am not comfortable in blank yet.
Fill in that blank.
I am not comfortable leading cross-departmental meetings.
Yeah.
Yet. I am not comfortable making spontaneous small talk at networking events. Yet. Give yourself the profound grace of that one tiny word.
That grace is absolutely essential for long-term endurance in language learning. Now, we've covered the entire 5E architecture. But to truly master these concepts, to embed them so deeply that they become second nature, we need to consolidate the precise vocabulary we've been utilizing.
The vocabulary is key.
Throughout this deep dive, we've used some highly specific, nuanced terminology. For an intermediate learner seeking natural, sophisticated fluency, being able to articulate your own internal psychological state using the right words gives you immense power over it. As the saying goes, name it to tame it.
Absolutely. Let's contextualize the key terms we've explored today, weaving them into the creation of a daily system. Because we don't want this to be just an inspiring show you listen to, nod along with, and then completely forget by tomorrow morning. We are going to build your daily 5E habit tracker.
A habit tracker is vital because it externalizes the psychological process. It takes this massive, abstract, cloudy concept of building confidence and distills it into a concrete, binary, daily checklist.
Did you do it or not?
Did you execute the behavior today, or did you not? Let's build the checklist while reviewing the precise vocabulary that describes the journey.
Let's start at the beginning of the emotional cycle. Before you take action, you often experience a state of intense anticipation. The word we use to describe the most extreme version of this is nerve-wracking.
Yes,
Yeah.
nerve-wracking. It's a brilliant, highly evocative adjective. It literally implies that a situation is wrecking or straining your nervous system. It's the intense, anxious tension before a big moment.
So how does that fit the tracker?
In the context of your habit tracker, you might ask yourself, did I expose myself to a situation today that was slightly nerve-wracking? For example, waiting for the client to join the Zoom call was nerve-wracking, but I didn't cancel.
So that leads right into the first two steps of your daily tracker. If you have a notes app open, write this down. Question 1, expose. Did I take one small uncomfortable action today? Did I step slightly outside my linguistic comfort zone, even if it was nerve-wracking?
And immediately following that,
Question 2, evidence. Did I practice follow-through?
follow-through is a crucial noun phrase in the corporate world. It means completing an action you intended or promised to do, rather than just talking about it. Did you actually follow through on your promise to speak up, and did you record that win in your evidence log?
Follow-through is the cure.
Consistent follow-through is the only known cure for self-sabotage, which, as we discussed, is the quiet habit of undermining your own progress through avoidance.
Now let's move to the execution phase on your daily tracker. When you actually get into the conversation, you might make a mistake. The precise word we used for that moment of stumbling is to falter.
Falter is a deeply human verb. It means to briefly lose your strength, steadiness, or momentum. Your voice might falter, your memory of a word might falter, but the beauty of the word is that it implies a temporary stumble, not a complete collapse.
You can recover.
An engine can falter and still keep running. You can falter in a sentence and still make your point.
And how do we handle the falter? With composure and being self-possessed.
Exactly. Composure is the state of feeling calm and in control of your physical and emotional responses. Being self-possessed means your emotions might be raging, but you retain ownership of your actions. You are driving the car.
Which brings us to the next questions for your daily tracker. Question 3, edit. When I felt myself falter today, did I catch myself using shrinking language, and did I correct it to clean, grounded language? Did I avoid the urge to overcompensate by talking too fast or too loudly?
And question 4, embody. Did I maintain my composure? Did I take a deliberate breath and physically ground my feet before speaking in that high-stakes moment? Did I physically claim my space?
And finally, the aftermath. Question 5, exit. When the meeting was over, did I successfully escape the rumination loop? Did I stop obsessing over my mistakes by asking for the constructive lesson utilizing the power of yet?
If you can run through that 5-question checklist every evening and honestly answer yes to even 2 or 3 of those questions on a daily basis, your progress will not just be linear, it will be exponential.
You are systematically building an architecture of self-trust.
Let's narrate the arc of that journey. If we look at the big picture of someone who uses this exact 5E tracker consistently for 6 months, the psychological transformation is profound.
What does that look like?
You begin as a nervous, hesitant learner, someone who engages in self-sabotage, who avoids complex interactions, who lets the fear of making a mistake dictate their daily schedule and limit their career trajectory.
But then you start utilizing the method.
Mm.
You begin to expose yourself. You become someone who takes the step, who falters publicly, who feels the heat of the spotlight, but who keeps going anyway.
You keep going.
You accept that your hands might shake, your voice might tremble, you might totally mess up the grammar of a crucial sentence, but you stay in the room. You maintain your composure.
And ultimately, through that relentless repetition, through that daily stubborn gathering of evidence and follow-through, you build the ultimate goal of this entire deep dive: conviction. But not just any conviction, rooted conviction. You develop the ability to withstand. To withstand means to remain strong and deeply rooted under immense pressure. It means you realize that the corporate winds will blow, the incredibly difficult, highly technical conversations will inevitably come, and embarrassing mistakes will absolutely happen. But through it all, you will not abandon yourself.
You stay rooted.
You will withstand the discomfort because your evidence log proves you can.
You will not abandon yourself. I think that is the most powerful, ultimate definition of confidence we could arrive at. It has nothing to do with being flawless. It is entirely about being fiercely faithful to your own growth and your own presence in the room.
Precisely. You shift your entire paradigm from seeking an impossible linguistic perfection to seeking emotional resilience. And that is a journey that any learner, regardless of their current fluency level, can embark on starting today.
As we wrap up this extensive deep dive into the 5E confidence method, let's bring it all back to the core mission we established in the very first minute. You, the intermediate English learner listening to this, you are not broken.
Not at all.
Your fear, your sweating palms, your hesitation before clicking on mute does not mean you lack intellectual potential or that you will never be fluent. It simply means you are in training.
Yeah.
You are currently undertrained in the specific high-stakes domain of speaking English under pressure.
And like any rigorous physical or mental training, mastering it requires deliberate exposure, it requires building a massive log of empirical evidence, and it requires refining your form, which we execute by editing our shrinking words and physically embodying our composure.
Exactly.
I want to genuinely thank you, the listener, for taking this deep dive with us into the architecture of your own mind and your daily habits. It takes a tremendous amount of courage just to examine these inner workings, honestly.
It really does. It's not easy work.
Yeah.
And as you take out your headphones or finish your commute, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought, something to deeply chew on over your next cup of coffee.
Something to mull over.
We've spent all this time talking about strategies to overcome mistakes, how to manage faltering, and how to build the confidence to speak clearly. But let me ask you to consider a completely different reality. What if the ultimate goal of learning English isn't actually to reach a mythical, impossible day where you never make a grammatical mistake again?
What if that's not the goal at all?
What if the actual true goal is to reach a day where a mistake simply doesn't matter to your confidence anymore?
That is a profound, life-changing paradigm shift. To become bulletproof to your own errors.
Think about the freedom in that. What would your very next conversation at work look like if you truly, deep down in your bones, believed that stumbling over a vocabulary word wouldn't diminish your intellectual worth or your authority in that room?
It changes everything.
How freely, how boldly would you speak? So the next time you find yourself staring at that send button on a difficult email or hovering anxiously over the unmute button on a video call, that tiny mountain of pixels on your screen, remember that the water in the pool will always be cold.
Don't wait for it to magically warm up.
Do not wait for it to magically warm up. Take a deliberate breath, plant your feet firmly on the ground, edit your language, and just hit send.